Does the nothosaurus' inclusion in this latest DLC mean we won't be getting a second Camp Cretaceous DLC? I don't think so. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today, I would like to discuss on our latest DLC and what it means for potential future DLCs. Now, as we all know, the Prehistoric Marine Species Pack has come out around 2 months ago, and introduced 4 new species, of course, being the Shonisaurus, Dunkleostis, Archelon, and most notably, the Nothosaurus. Now, this is kind of odd, as many people thought that the Nothosaurus was going to be included in a potential Camp Cretaceous DLC, but now people are starting to doubt that we will be seeing another Camp Cretaceous DLC and that we will probably be receiving our last 4 missing species in other DLC packs. Well, honestly, I don't necessarily think that the Nothosaurus' inclusion in this last DLC means that we won't be getting a potential Camp Cretaceous DLC. Now, the reason I think this is because one expansion, the Dominion Malta expansion. Now, as we know, the Dominion Malta expansion gave us 4 new species, a bunch of new skins, a new variant, and a new campaign. But one of the most notable omissions from this DLC was the Microceratus. As we all know, the Microceratus did appear in Malta in Jurassic World Dominion, but the Moros Intrepidus didn't. This is very odd, as the Moros Intrepidus was created by Biosyn, and honestly, I think it would have made more sense to include it in the Dominion Biosyn expansion 6 months earlier than including it in this DLC. Now, the Microceratus fits more thematically in with this DLC than the Moros Intrepidus, but they still replaced the Microceratus with the Moros Intrepidus. I'm just going to say that I do think that the Microceratus will probably get in at some time during Jurassic World Evolution 2's lifetime. Another Biosyn thing that was added in this DLC was the Iguanodon variant. The Iguanodon only appeared in Biosyn Valley during Jurassic World Dominion, so honestly it has nothing to do with Malta, but this was also added in this expansion. Now, I do think that there is a reason for this. The Dominion Biosyn expansion had a lot of content, and honestly, there was really not enough space for Moros Intrepidus and that Iguanodon variant for that Biosyn expansion. Honestly, I think it would have been too much. And from what I see, is that they like to keep their expansions at 4 species per pack. Both the Dominion Biosyn and Dominion Malta expansions had a chance to have 5 species in them. The Dominion Biosyn expansion, of course, having the 4 species we already got, and the Moros Intrepidus, as all 5 were made from Biosyn. The Dominion Malta expansion could have easily added in all 5 and just thrown in the Moros Intrepidus because they could have. And if they included in the Moros Intrepidus and that Iguanodon variant, I think they would have gone over their $20 price tag that they like to keep and that 4 species limit. So honestly, I think that's why the Moros Intrepidus and the Iguanodon variant were shafted for the Dominion Malta expansion. Another option for the Moros Intrepidus was that they could have thrown in the late Cretaceous pack that came out in September of that year, in between the Biosyn and Malta DLCs, as the Moros Intrepidus did come from the late Cretaceous, but they didn't. They kept it for the Biosyn and Malta DLC. And of course, the Microceratus was probably moved to another DLC to give more space for the Moros Intrepidus, as again, they like to keep their DLCs at 4 species. They have only broken this rule once with the Camp Cretaceous Dinosaur Pack, which only gave us 2 species. But this isn't the first example of Frontier doing this. In the Dominion Biosyn expansion, they actually added in the feathered T-Rex from the Dominion prologue. This feathered Rex was never made by Biosyn or had anything to do with Biosyn. Rexy wasn't even made by Biosyn, it was made by InGen. So honestly, the feathered Rex had no business in being in the Dominion Biosyn expansion, but it was still added in. We have seen multiple times that Frontier is willing to put in unrelated content in other DLCs. But what does this mean for a potential second Camp Cretaceous DLC? Well, the Moros Intrepidus inclusion in the Dominion Malta expansion shows that Frontier isn't scared to put in content that didn't appear in that potential DLC. This is interesting, as they could easily do this with future DLCs if they really wanted to. Even free updates sometimes don't even correlate with their DLCs. Update 7 didn't really receive that many Lagoon improvements, even though the accompanying DLC was a Lagoon DLC. Honestly, they could release a desert pack and give us a bunch of Lagoon improvements if they really wanted to. But the reason I bring this up is because that 3 of our 4 missing species are from Camp Cretaceous: the Tarbosaurus, Smilodon, and Spinoceratops. They could break away from the previous pattern and possibly just give us 3 species in this DLC, and give us more skins and variants and like a better campaign. But honestly, I don't think they're going to do that. They're probably just going to give us 4 species. But what could that 4th species be? Well, in my opinion, I think they could just throw in the Microceratus for this DLC. Now, as we know, Microceratus had nothing to do with Camp Cretaceous, or if this is a Mantah Corp expansion, Mantah Corp. But they don't really care about how appropriate species is for a potential DLC. And that would probably be the only thing that wouldn't be from Camp Cretaceous. Another solution to this is make it so it actually is relevant to Camp Cretaceous. As we know, Jurassic World Evolution 2 isn't an alternate timeline from the movies. So one of the solutions I have for this is, as we know, Mantah Corp went back to Isla Nublar to go and retrieve more species for this. In the campaign, they could make it so both Tarbosaurus and Microceratus were found on Isla Nublar, and they both took those species back to Mantah Corp Island. And that would honestly be a pretty smart solution. They did this with the Malta expansion. They made it so in that timeline, the Moros Intrepidus was a part of the Malta black market and the Microceratus wasn't. So honestly, I think that's a solution that could probably work for this expansion. And there's still a bunch of other things that could be added. Dozens of skins. There's a really cool campaign idea. There's a bunch of mechanics, a brand new map. This works for a Camp Cretaceous expansion. And honestly, I don't think that the nothosaurus inclusion in the last DLC proves that we will not be getting a second Camp Cretaceous DLC. Now, let's say, for the sake of argument, that the Malta DLC hasn't happened yet, and they gave us the Microceratus in another DLC, like, I don't know, a tiny species pack, or like another Cretaceous pack. Would that mean that we wouldn't be getting a Malta DLC because the only 3 dinosaurs that would be in a Malta DLC that would be left for a Malta DLC would be the Lystrosaurus, Oviraptor, and Troceraptor? Honestly, I don't really think so. Again, I would have brought up the argument that they could have just thrown in Moros Intrepidus in there just because they can, and they did it. So honestly, this is basically the same exact situation that is happening right now. So, in my opinion, the Nothosaurus doesn't get rid of the chances of receiving a second Camp Cretaceous DLC. But what do you guys think? Do you think the Nothosaurus gets rid of the chances of receiving a second Camp Cretaceous DLC? Do you think that my argument actually has some points, or is just flimsy? Please let me know down in the comments. And if you think I deserve it, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. But that's it for me, and I will see you guys next time.